So greetings to all of you. At the outset, let me commend VRVJIET, the leadership, the faculty for starting this TED Talk on Unfold the Untold. And I'm thankful to VRVJIET for inviting me for the talk today. I'm a 50-year-old veteran from the industry. In 1974 is when I graduated out of IIT Kanpur and decided to become a corporate world professional. In the last 50 years, I've seen an enormous amount of change. Change in our lives, change in our work, the change in which we do everything. Driven by many factors, of course. We'll come to that. So what I decided to caption my talk for you this morning is to call it as the Unfold the Untold, embracing the technological change for tomorrow's triumph. So let me go back to my 1974 days when I was a student at IIT Kanpur. IIT Kanpur was then known to have the best of computing equipment in this country by any institution, not necessarily an academic institution. It had an IBM 7044, which is housed in an auditorium of this size, if not twice this size. That was the size of the computer, primarily driven by vacuum technologies. It catered to 1,000 students on the campus, a little over 1,000, 1,200 I believe was the number that was there then. And what was the power of this computer? Was all in terms of kilohertz of cycles that they did. It had memory which was less than a half a megabyte. It had a storage which was no more than 2 megabytes. That was the computer it was. Reflect on it with what all of you have with you right now as a smartphone, which has gigahertz of speed, megabytes of memory, gigabytes, if not terabytes of storage. That's the transformation that I've seen over the last 50 years. It's just not computers. As I said, life has changed quite dramatically. Telephone, a luxury. I'm sure none of the people here in this room today are without a cellular phone with them. It was in the generation that I graduated, we had to wait for anywhere between 8 to 10 years before you got a phone, a landline connected to your home. So was an automobile. Automobile was a luxury for anybody. You paid a premium before you got the car. And I can go on with a number of examples. Drawing your own money from the bank. It's your own money. You went to the bank, waited for a minimum of an hour before the money was disbursed to you. If you look back at wars that were fought at that point of time, they were all man to man, fist to fist. That's how the wars were fought. But what we see is a completely different India. A changed India in the last 50 years. What brought about this change? To me, three things come to my mind. The first one is the amount of technological innovation that has happened. The second one is the policy power of the government. And the third one is the will of the people, like every one of you, who brought about this change. And so let me spend a little time on each one of them, and more important, the first one, the technology. Let's start there. I started with computers, so let me start with computers back again. What have happened to these computers? These have become faster, they become cheaper, they become smaller. And that continues. Gordon Moore's law, which came in 1974, is being surpassed at this point of time. And then we started seeing enormous amount of communication capability. There are right now, as we speak, as many as 5 billion people on the network, but more interestingly, there are 15 more billion things on the same network. So the power of the network has exponentially grown to be 20 billion. And we've also found these, at one point of time, I used to call them the ugly looking devices called the sensors. They can now sense everything and anything as what the human beings do. You can feel, you can see, you can smell, you can taste. All of them are feasible by the sensors too. That made enormous amount of change in terms of what we see at this point of time as the new world or new India. We certainly have seen communication not only that it become accessible, it's become affordable. It has also become extremely efficient. The new 5G technologies have latencies which are less than 4 milliseconds, which means that when the knife, when the stylus in front of the doctor moves, the knife of the patient, and the patient being thousands of miles away from where the doctor is still moving in real time. So the end result is that several things which we thought was not possible have now become possible. It's not just the computer technology, but the fact that the government interventions have brought in enormous amount of digital infrastructure makes now possible many other applications. In the very early days of independence of India in 1947 to 1960s, the government used to talk about roti kapda or makan. Then they talked about sadak, bijli or pani. What they talked thereafter was all about broadband, the digital infrastructure connecting people across the nation, irrespective of which nook and corner one was located. So as a result of this, what have we seen is an enormous amount of progress in terms of e-commerce, e-education, e-finance. My example of waiting for 1 hour is not longer true anymore. In a few seconds I could do a transaction of transferring even millions of dollars across the wire. And so is with government services, or it is with healthcare as well as skills. I don't want you to mistake that I'm only focusing on computers at this point of time. There's enormous amount of progress that has happened in other fields too. Look at biotechnology, genomics at this point of time. We've gone to a level of getting personalized healthcare, personalized medication. These are possible through advances in the pharma. No denying, underlying could be technology. So is the case with materials. We now have compressed the size of batteries. New materials are being invented every day in order to ensure that we have stronger material, lighter material, and cheaper material for use in products. So the list goes on and on. Whether it is solar technology, whether it is drones, whether it is robots, and so on. We went ahead and created enormous amount of progress in the last 50 years. So, what do you see in future at this point of time? Future continues to be bright, if not brighter than what past was. To me, it's shining so strong. I keep saying I can't even see it. That's how the future is. Because it doesn't seem to stop where we started. The progress seems to be now exponential. We talked about the computers from kilohertz to gigahertz. It's now becoming 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times faster than that. If you look at quantum computing, With the quantum computing, you could do applications which were not possible so far, which is considered to be impossible, are possible now. And look at the other applications like 5G. 5G today, with the reach it has, we are now doing applications which are not thought about in the past. And so is with sensors. We are collecting an enormous amount of data. And the data, when run with algorithms, becomes AI. And then the AI is further morphing itself into generative AI, where we are building large language models, small language models. And we're going ahead and now making sure that these language models become more efficient by building chips which are custom made. Actually, to handle a large language model, you don't require so much of processing power. What you require is more amount of memory space. But I'm sure many of you use the ChatGPT, and you'll find that it probably comes back in a few seconds. What people believe is, as we see in the future, it'll come back instantaneously. What we are further seeing is that this is not just limited to one area. The progress will happen in every conceivable area. It will be in banking, it will be in automobiles, it will be in healthcare, it will be in pharma. So please do not think that all the life in future is all about computers and software. It is much beyond computers and software. You need to have the domain knowledge. Automobile is not a computer. Automobile is assisted by a computer. The drugs that get produced by you may have a lot of interventions with computer technology, but finally, it's the processing plant that produces them. We need shelter. We need civil engineers. So do not get carried away that future is all about computers, computer science and computer engineering. The other core engineering will still be very strong. So therefore, what do I expect you to do now? I have 50 years of experience, but I don't have the time to tell you 50 years of my story. I'll tell you 5 pieces of my advice. The first and the foremost is, you need to embrace the role of a Zen Z knowledge worker. It's no more that you are storing information. You're memorizing information with you. You should get into a mode where you become more versatile, you become more adaptable, you are more purpose-driven. Always I keep asking this question, why am I here? What's the purpose of my life? That will give you a number of answers to what you want to do. Do not get carried away with one particular area because your friends do it, or there's more demand for it, or your parents think that's the right way. Take a specialization where you have passion. And that passion will definitely get into a mode where it's not anymore information that you're storing with you, but you're processing that information to store knowledge with you. So the first prescription I have for you is embrace the role of a Zen Z knowledge worker. The second one is, we've seen so far, is enormous amount of change. So people who, not even my generation, I'm sure several generations ahead, thought 1 degree was good enough for them. 1 degree was good enough for their professional life. That's not true. It has to be lifelong learners. You've got to constantly acquire new knowledge. You need to upskill yourself regularly. You need to stay curious. You need to stay hungry in order to ensure you get more knowledge. But here is the key to it. Lifelong learning does not require now anymore to go to college, university, or an institution. You can learn from anywhere, anytime. My third prescription is all about developing nature of being curious and open-minded. The world is all about change. So therefore, you got to keep pace with the change, and you need to be a part of the change. So you need to develop this habit of being curious, ask questions, challenge the status quo, try new things. That's when you will see more amount of innovation that's coming out. And when you're saying at a very young age, I'm asking you to do all these, it's also important you start learning how to work in teams, collaborate with people, and communication with each other. The fourth one is cultivate the interdisciplinary nature. You'll see some of these products that are there at this point of time do not belong to one particular discipline. In the very traditional old ways, an automobile was a mechanical engineering device. The first car I possessed was an Ambassador, which had only two electrical parts. One was a starter motor, and the other was to do with headlights. Even if I had to take a turn, I had to put my hand out of the window to show which direction I was going. And what is it today? In terms of value, 60% of an automobile is electronics and software. So therefore, if you look at an automobile, it's not mechanical engineering. It has got hardware, which is computers, it has got software, it has got cameras, it has got AI, it has got sensors, and many of them. So the result is that you have to go beyond what you are supposed to be learning. Don't learn what you think you know. Learn something you do not know. Get to other departments, take those options in order to ensure you become very interdisciplinary in nature. The fifth one, the last one is you aspire to become an entrepreneur. The change brings lots of opportunity. There's an lot of innovation happening around the world. And as a result of that, I encourage all of you to take up entrepreneurship, become job creators, wealth creators, and channelize your technology to become more entrepreneurs and change. Let me conclude by saying that industries have changed, businesses have changed, products have changed, and even our way of living has all transformed. One thing has not changed, our values have not changed. I built an organization built on what I call them as the foundation of values. Values to me, which are first FIRST, fairness, integrity, respect, transparency, and sincerity. It's these values that are foundation, which are meaningful and will bring success and guide you through the change and help you tomorrow's triumph. All the best to all of you. Thank you.